Welcome to Dial It In, a podcast where we talk with fascinating people about marketing, sales, process improvements, and tricks that they use to grow their businesses. Join me, Dave Meyer, and Trygve Olsen of BusyWeb as we bring you interviews on how the best in their fields are dialing it in for their organizations. Let's ring up another episode.
Happy Thanksgiving, Dave.
Happy Thanksgiving, Mr. Turducken Trygve.
I love Thanksgiving, primarily because as I've gotten older and I have credit cards, I have won Thanksgiving. And we're going to be exploring how I won Thanksgiving throughout the course of this episode. But I remember as a kid, my great aunt Mary would always host Thanksgiving, and I would go visit them with my parents and my grandmother, and we would go to their house, and my great uncle Carl, who was this giant bear of a man, he wasn't grouchy, but he was like a Grisham villain. He was huge, and I was not at the time, and so he was always complaining about that darn John Madden and that stupid bird. And so later in life, I have recreated that stupid bird and into glorious results. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. But we got a great guest to talk about that with. But before we do that, do we have a sponsor?
Yeah, we do. Today we're going to be sponsored by Fractional Tactical. As a fractional CMO, your number one goal is to deliver success to each of your clients. With limited time and resources, you need marketing solutions that are data-proven, easy to execute, and repeatable. BusyWeb understands the unique challenges marketing executives face. That's why we offer customized solutions for our CMO partners. You tell us the results you need, and we create the strategy and MarTech stack to get you there. You have the concrete plan, your clients have measurable results, and you look like a rock star. We helped get you there. Everyone wins. Visit fractionaltactical.com to find your tactical marketing partner today. You do strategy, we get busy.
I like what you did there at the end. That was cute.
All right.
Yeah. So our guest today is Lisa Futterman. She is a Chicago-based freelance food, travel, and beverage writer whose work explores the stories behind what we eat and drink. She is a contributing editor at The Alcohol Professor, which, boy, we sure are going to talk to her about that.
Oh, right.
Especially after everybody's driving to meet their relatives today. She covers everything from destination restaurants and global ingredients to the evolution of cocktails and local culture and cuisine. Her writing has appeared in Food and Wine, Chicago Magazine, and National Geographic Travel, where she blends a journalist's curiosity with a chef's sensibility. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
And just as a shout out, we met you through one of our employees whose brother owns a restaurant in Chicago. What's the name of that restaurant? Because we got to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. Our restaurant, I say our because I work there too, is called Supercana International. We are a modern Indian restaurant in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago, and the food is phenomenal.
Excellent. Well, the employee that we met you through, we used to have a drinking game because every time he'd talk to somebody new, he'd say he was from Chicago. He'd figure out a way to fit it into the conversation, but then we had to stop.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Lisa, I got to admit, I have won Thanksgiving, and that is because, much to my wife's chagrin and much to all of my in-laws who simply do not like it, but they try and be nice to me to my face, which is a Thanksgiving tradition unto itself. I airlift from New Orleans to my home in Minnesota overnight on dry ice, a 20-pound turducken, and I smoke it.
Yum.
And it's to die for, and I love it. And my son, who is a picky eater, also likes it. We can get into the Madden-esque of all of it, but tell me something for those who are listening who are immediately repulsed. What is a turducken?
Oh, I don't think it's a repulsive thing at all. It's quite an interesting and delicious thing. It is is the turkey, duck is the duck, Ken is the chicken. It's a chicken stuffed into a duck, stuffed into a turkey. In order to do that and also to create as a dramatic presentation and sort of a surprise element, all of the birds are deboned. The turkey, they leave the wing bones and sometimes the leg bones in to create that whole turkey look.
Mhm.
And then the other two birds are rolled with stuffing stuffed into the birds and to the giant turkey. And then when you roast or smoke it and present it, you can just cut it like as if it was a cake.
Oh my.
Is that your experience too? That's how
Yes.
you present it? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and see,
So
I'm already learning things, Lisa, because I assumed it was literally bones and all. You just kept cramming things in until nothing else would fit. So you
that would be one way to do it, but I don't
yeah.
think it would be very attractive
It is
to making
essentially,
or eating it.
yeah, it is essentially a 20-pound meatloaf with
Yes.
stuffing. And when you cut it, it looks like a Swiss roll, or really it looks more like a brain MRI, because there's different meats and different stuffings. The one that I get, which again, I'm super proud of, because as a practitioner of the internet arts, I have found the deli in New Orleans where John Madden used to get his turduckens from. That's where I get mine. So I get one from the godfather of Thanksgiving. It's a great memory for me to think about my great uncle Carl and talking about how John Madden didn't like it. But yeah, what's really cool about it is it's a 20 pounder, but there's no bones, there's no dead area, so it completely changes the dynamic of cooking. But Lisa, what does it take to build a turducken? Because I think that's where Dave's question comes from, is when on earth is it?
It takes a lot of skill, first of all, as a butcher, because I don't know, either of you have ever deboned a chicken or a turkey. It's like doing surgery. Just like anything in butchery, it's not difficult once you know how to do it, but you have to know how to do it. And there's you have to have very sharp knives, and you're scraping and
Mhm.
cleaning and removing the bones, but also trying to keep the meat as one whole piece so that you can roll it back up with your stuffings and create that Swiss roll that you were discussing. That's the first difficult thing, is just the butchery, right?
Mhm.
Then you have the stuffings. So obviously you have to create something absolutely delicious that's going to go with all those meats and make everyone happy on Thanksgiving. And then finally, the cooking of it, I think, is also very difficult because you're dealing with poultry, which, as we know, if it's served undercooked, can be a
Mhm.
real problem.
Mhm.
But if it's overcooked, it's going to be dry. We've all had that Thanksgiving dry turkey. No gravy will fix it. And if it's cooked properly, you still have an issue with what's called the time and temperature danger zone. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I have, but for everybody else.
Yo, man.
So you, with proteins particularly, but any hot foods, you don't want them to stay under 140 degrees Fahrenheit for any length of time, because that is bacteria's favorite temperature, right? So if you're cooking this thing low and slow in the oven and the middle of it isn't hot enough, fast enough, you have a real health problem. So
Goodness.
all of these things make turduckens difficult to do properly. However, when they're done properly, I'm sure they are, like you said, the centerpiece to a real surprising and fabulous, impressive meal.
I happen to know from many stories that Trigby takes his cooking of his turducken very
I
seriously.
do.
He will tell us about the devices that he uses. I know that one of them involves use of apps
Yeah.
and probably more
Mhm.
processing power than the lunar lander module by an order of
Mhm.
magnitude.
100%.
So
Yeah.
how do you grill your
A
turducken?
turducken can be made in the oven, and it's a remarkably shorter cook time than a turkey, because there are no bones to reflect off the heat. And so to
Mhm.
get that 140-degree temperature, it's considerably easier. So it's actually quite an easier cook.
Okay.
So when I cook it, obviously I do the man thing, which is to say my wife cooks 14 things, but I cook the main event. So I'm the one who's cooking. She needs the stove. I actually do it on my Traeger smoker outside. So I smoke it for 8 hours. And I am extremely lucky in that I did not buy my trigger new. I found it on Amazon Marketplace and bought it from a guy who did buy everything, and then his wife made him sell it because he didn't use it. So I have all the bells and whistles up to and including Wi-Fi temperature gauges that I have in it, and then also it has a heat blanket on top of it in order to keep the heat in, because a Minnesota November cook is often a challenging thing because you do have to keep the temperature consistent. So I have to admit, while I do claim that I do smoke my turkey, it's not a very hard cook because the fire is all controlled by Wi-Fi. What I liken it to is like there's a difference between deer hunting and then going to the spot where the resort feeds the deer all summer and then waiting for the deer to show up because it's hungry. My cooking is much more towards the latter. But what's interesting about it is it's not one bird taste, it's a fourth completely different taste because all the juices from all of the different birds end up commingling, and so you end up having a completely different taste altogether. Yeah.
Do you serve it with gravy?
I serve it with gravy, and then it has the stuffing built in as well. And then obviously I said my in-laws don't like it. So as they see a plate that has 3 different white meats on it, they're trying to figure out which one is which. Because then when they only eat one of them, they usually eat the wrong one. It's unintentional comedy as well, right? Lisa, who invented the turducken, and what is the sort of the gastronomical reasoning behind doing this? Because it's a weird thing. Who really thought about the idea of putting 2 birds into a third?
You know, the term is called engastration, the actual technical term, which is a very ugly word for what we describe in an ugly way, which is shoving birds inside each other. But, and so many things, the actual inventor, the person who discovered this or created this, we're not really sure. I'm assuming to be that you get your birds from bears. Is that where you
I
get
don't.
it from?
I get it from a different place. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
The bears.
bears moved to Texas, and I just think of there.
Oh,
I'm more of a purist. So
I
I'm not going to
see.
reveal where I get my birds from, but it is where John Madden gets his.
Okay. The gentleman at bears say that they invented, many people say that
Yes.
the bears invented the turducken. Other people say that Paul Prudhomme, who's a famous Cajun chef from the 1970s and 80s, invented it. But either way, it was around the mid 80s that people started seeing this commonly coming out of Louisiana. But really in Great Britain and overseas Europe, they've been stuffing birds inside each other for a much longer time. They have a thing called a gooducken. What do you think that is?
Goose.
Yeah, they love a Christmas goose, so there's not as much room, so I find that to be a little more tricky. But
And the Scottish obviously are champions of cooking things
Exactly.
inside of other things.
Exactly. I think, Joyville, like the way you are a project cook, it sounds like you're the man of the house cook. I think there's a tradition of that throughout history. I bet cavemen were shoving smaller animals inside bigger animals too, and roasting them outside over their fire and beating their chest and things like this. None of this surprises me. But it's definitely a Cajun thing in the United States. The more recent history is definitely that Cajun sensibility. But the Cajun cooking is, again, very, I don't want to say aggressive. Another Cajun term is blackening. They take fish and make it black in a cast iron skillet. When they make gumbo, that roux has to be dark, like dark chocolate, and will actually send you to the hospital if you get burned by it. So there's a lot of very dramatic cooking, let's say, coming out of the Acadiana tradition. So it doesn't surprise me that's where it's from in the States.
For turduckens, then, are they traditionally seasoned Creole? Or
They can be.
Okay.
I think mostly they are. There's really, normally if you go on a website and order one, you get a choice of anywhere from 3 to 12 different dressings and stuff. Put it anything from andouille sausage to cornbread to crawfish, which sounds really interesting.
Yep.
Alligator, all of these sort of Cajun
Which I
inspired.
think is a good tip as everybody's driving to their in-laws today is when you buy something like this, you get it's all incorporated in it. So if you have people with allergies, you sure got to be right. So make
Mhm.
sure that you ask your guests well ahead of time if they've got any particular allergies.
That is a really good point.
Yeah.
I have a lot of gluten-free guests coming to my Thanksgiving this year, and this without the cornbread dressing, if you just have all kinds of meat on meat,
Mhm.
you got a gluten-free
Yeah.
turducken.
I have a vegan who's coming the second year in a row, and we talked to my wife about it, and I don't know what he ate last year.
Yeah.
That wasn't vegan. So,
Mhm.
Lisa, as somebody who's a food historian, I think one of the things that I think turducken gets a bad rap because the rise of turducken also met the rise of American gluttony and the idea of supersizing everything. But is that really a fair characterization of the turducken?
I don't know if it is. I don't think it's that gluttonous to eat a turducken. I think or eating turkey with stuffing, it's exactly the same sort of amount of food. It's just a little bit more of a dramatic presentation. And certainly gluttony and Thanksgiving have always gone hand in hand for some reason.
That's
I have a feeling, Trigva, are you a person who has deep fried a turkey in the past?
I have. I did it once, and then I had an incident in my house unrelated to it that I had, in order to continue to be married, I had to make a promise to my wife that if the threat of me doing anything was the threat of death was greater than mild, I wasn't allowed to do it anymore. So
Mhm.
Dave actually has my deep fryer.
Yes, I inherited it, and my wife officially told me I couldn't use it until I was at least 50 paces away from the house. And I'm not in our town on Father's Day. Actually, someone decided to roast a turkey in their garage or deep fry a turkey in their garage, and they burned their house down.
Yes.
Well, it's one of those things where you can't have a frozen bird on that because the water flashes and it explodes. You definitely wouldn't want to deep fry your turducken.
No.
So many things
Yeah.
can go wrong. So I think the deep fried turkey is another example of something outrageous that we do.
Mhm.
I think the turducken should be more innocent. It does pretty.
How do you, as a writer, I'm curious, how do you separate fact and fiction when something like
Oh,
this, where everybody knows what it is, but nobody knows where it came from? Because one of
yeah.
the things we have here in Minnesota is we have a burger that's called the Juicy Lucy, which is
Yes, I've heard of it.
fatty cheese baked inside of a hamburger. And so when you get served your burger, it's often so it looks just like a plain hamburger, but there's cheese on the inside. And the pros have to gauge how long will it be before the cheese officially congeals, but while it's still melty in order to eat. Nobody really knows where it came from. There's a lot of different places that say that they invented it.
And that happens over and over and over and over again. I'm not sure if the internet has increased that or decreased it, but certainly I think I've invented things all the time. Oh, I put potato chips in my chocolate chip cookies. I bet I'm the first person to do that. And then you go online and search it, and 150,000 recipes come up for potato chips and chocolate chip cookies. As a journalist, in order to sort things out, the best way to do it, and this is more about journalism than about cooking, is to get a primary source. So if I want to know who invented the turducken, I got to go talk to people who knew Paul Prudhomme, and I got to talk to the Bears and see what they have to say. And it might not clear it up, but it will certainly be their words claiming ownership rather than my own guess from what I've gleaned on the internet.
Sure.
There.
So, what are some of the other things as a food historian, a food blogger, food writer? I know you've got a great Instagram that people should definitely be following.
Thanks.
If this episode is going to be released on Thanksgiving, if people want to impress this holiday season, what are some of the things that you think they should be trying to pull off for their guests?
Personally, I used to, and I don't do it anymore because I'm tired and old and it's too hard, but I used to have a theme every Thanksgiving, and every everything about Thanksgiving had to fit this theme. So the first year, the theme of Thanksgiving was a very strange one. It was celery. And everything either
Your Thanksgiving theme was celery?
celery, because we use a lot of celery on Thanksgiving and it's an
Sure.
absolutely underrated vegetable. So we ate a lot of things using different parts of or techniques using celery. So, celery soup, we use the celery leaves in a salad, things like this. But then over the years, it got much more dramatic and I think interesting. So perhaps we would do a country. So we did Chinese Thanksgiving and we stuffed Chinese sausage underneath the skin of the turkey and put a sticky rice stuffing in the middle of it. Things like this and a soy glaze, and it became Chinese Thanksgiving. So there was always still a turkey. It wasn't like we were having a Chinese meal. And like I said, then I got tired and stopped doing it. But theming your Thanksgiving and things up a little bit is a really fun way to get out of a rut of we're having the same food every year.
Mhm.
Now, of course, when you do that, you're going to have your purists and your traditionalists in the family, particularly, who are going to say, I can't have Thanksgiving without X.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, what is it for you guys? For my team, it's
We got a munch. Yeah.
for my team is mashed potato.
Yeah.
Don't mess with the mashed potatoes, Lisa. Don't put parsnips in the mashed potatoes. Just make the damn mashed potatoes the
Yeah.
same way you always make them. So there are things that are sacred. Another thing that I've seen, if you don't want to do a whole theme, have you seen these like Frankenstein pies?
The pie cakin.
Different than a pie cakin. I was going to talk about the pie
Oh,
cakin.
okay.
Okay.
Tell us about the pie cakin, Trigva.
So a pie cakin is a pie, a cake, and something that ends in N. A tort, maybe?
Isn't it like different pies baked inside different cakes?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
basically like a 3-layer. It's like pumpkin pie, and then
Yeah.
spice cake, and then apple pie, and then like another layer of cake.
Yeah, and it's a lot of, but you have to take, or you buy them, but you have to have 3 different pies and 3 different cakes and stack them up, and it makes a big mess. The pie that I'm talking about is it's a rectangle, and it's in quadrants. So you have a cherry pie, a pumpkin pie, an apple pie, and a 4th pie, maybe whatever
Uh-huh.
it's missing. I don't know. Everyone can have whatever kind of pie they want in one pie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fun idea, a challenge that one could reach for.
I have attempted the pie cakin in the past, and
You have.
I
Of course you have.
and it's not worth the effort. I
It
think.
doesn't seem like it.
Maybe if you buy it, it'd be different. But the challenge is like a good pumpkin pie and then a good spice cake. The flavors are similar.
Yeah.
They're different textures. And pumpkin pie is not a bold, hit you in the face flavor. They're all subtle and they all melt together into one taste, and not in a good way like a turducken. But
And does your Traeger come with can you just like load chocolate chips instead of pellets? Is that how that works?
no,
or-
I can't. And
I think you have something there, Dave.
I'm embarrassed to say that I did install a sonar detector in my Traeger so that it tells me. So the Traeger will text me when I'm low on pellet, but I still sit next to it and then baby it just to stay out of the way of the relatives, because I got to maintain dinner. All right. Even though I'm really just watching Netflix.
Of course.
So you're spilling all the tea, right? Spilling all the tea today, Dave.
One of the things that we do at our family is we have different people that love different things, of course. And the way that we do tie breaking on that is if you really love a particular thing and you need to have it there, you're in charge of bringing it, right? So I have, for example, my mom makes her sweet potatoes very differently than my wife and their family. And so I talk my mom into always bringing my favorite version of the sweet potatoes, which have lots and lots of marshmallows on them and all kinds of good stuff. And then there's also the traditionalists, which I don't know if you can call it a traditionalist if you insist on canned cranberries versus like actual minced up real cranberries. And I'm both ways on that, but my dad insists on having the canned cranberries because that's the way he always had it.
There's one in
So,
every crowd.
yep. So you got to bring at least a can of cranberries in.
Mhm.
And normally we just, with great fanfare, we just uncork that puppy and we just plop it until it's on the table and it's jiggling like jello and you go after it. But
It's the only
that's,
way to present
yeah.
it.
So I'm a fan of many hands make light work and the almost buffet style. But some people also insist it needs to be an experience that I curate for my entire group. And I don't know. How do you manage that?
Me. That's
Yeah.
me. I'm a professional cook, so
Mhm.
it's like the one day a year that I can just say, no, don't do anything. I'm doing it. If you want to bring something, make it in a glass.
Right.
So we have people making cocktails over here, and we have people pouring wine over here.
Or,
No one's even allowed to bring a dessert unless they want to add to
sure.
the selection. I'm the boss.
Perfect. Yeah. So do you, process wise, is this a half of the week kind of an engagement where you're setting things up and prepping, or are you a one day and done?
It's funny. We were just discussing this at work in the kitchen the other day. The Thanksgiving meal is not a difficult meal to execute because it's all done in advance in the oven. And so it's really, I do put my friends to work on prep, like you said, but it's all the day of. Once I get everything in the house,
Mhm.
I hand someone a bag of Brussels sprouts, I hand someone else a bag of potatoes, and they peel and they chop, and I orchestrate, and we're all drinking champagne, and it's really a good time. It's part of the
So while you guys were
festivities.
talking, it was driving me nuts what the third pie was. So a pie cake
Oh.
is a pecan pie on top,
Pecan.
Oh, we forgot pecan.
atop of a
Mhm.
spice cake on top of a pumpkin.
Yeah. That's my
Oh,
favorite too. I can't believe we forgot it.
Yeah.
See, my wife
And the
ordered that.
Frankenstein is cherry, apple, pumpkin, pecan.
I like that. I like that a lot. Last question, Lisa, and thank you so much for joining us and
My
taking
pleasure.
time this holiday season. Settle a major dispute when you walk into somebody's house and you walk into the kitchen. You say, "How can I help?" Should you be shooed away or should you actually help? Because I know sometimes people like that. My wife is one of those people that I don't help, not because I'm not willing, but because I'm just going to slow her down.
Exactly.
So what's the rule of thumb here as we invade somebody else's house?
As someone who came up in the French cooking tradition, the chef means boss. The chef is in charge. So if your wife is cooking, she gets to decide. I'm not, and that's how I am in the kitchen too. I'm not going to ask you to help me just to make you feel better. If I need help, I'll grab you.
Mhm.
Otherwise, stay out of my way.
How about the flip side though? And this is our family rule. My wife cooks and anybody else that brings stuff, what that does mean is that she does not clean at the end.
No, absolutely not.
You agree?
I would normally agree. However, I have a different rule, which I really like, which is you don't clean at my house, I don't clean at yours. So,
Ooh.
Dave, if you invited me over for dinner, you don't even have to, I don't even have to offer to help with the dishes because you're not going to help at my house. And it's just, that's how it is. It's much more relaxing, I think, for everyone. While I don't love cleaning up, I can do it on my own time. And again, just stay out of my kitchen.
Love it.
Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. And most importantly, thank you to Nicole, the producer, for letting me do one bizarre episode during our season of selling. Lisa, we'd love to end with absolute bald-faced personal shout outs. Where if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
I would love for you to visit my Instagram. It's at Futty Pages, Futty Pages. It has lots of fun stuff on it, and it also has a link to all of my work. So if you want to read my articles, funny or serious, including some recipes for mashed potatoes and gravy, please visit me there.
Love it.
I'm there already. Dave, what did we learn today? Besides, we need to plan time for napping because that's really the best part of Thanksgiving.
Ooh, yes, I agree. I think it's like everything, people bring their personalities and their traditions into family time, and to respect and honor that, and also be a little bit adventurous at times and maybe throw a couple extra birds all piled together. And I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to sell a turducken to my wife, but I want to get one and experience it and cook one up at some other time. So maybe for Black Friday, I'll do a turducken.
There you go. There you go. To me, it's always important to have your own traditions. And I got to do this as a result of the pandemic, when it was finally time to, when nobody else could come to the house, my wife and I got to sit down and say, okay, what are we really going to do and make our own traditions? So it's now ironclad and special unto themselves. But Lisa, thank you for refereeing. I do want to give a shout out for my relatives who are listening to my Uncle John, who passed away 2 years ago, who thought that deboning and building a turducken was just too wussy. So he layered each bird with ham and then bacon and built a 12-layer abomination. But he was a mad alchemist unto himself. And I'm thinking about him today as well. So let's go eat.
Bon appetit.
This has been another episode of Dial It In Holiday Edition, produced by Nicole Fairclough and Andy Witowski. And much like Tony Kornheiser, we will also try to do better the next time.